My parents labeled me a failure, threw me out of their lives, and made it clear I'd never amount to anything, so I built my own path. Years later, with their $60 million business crumbling, they came crawling back, begging for my help. I couldn't help but laugh. Success tastes better when no one believed you'd get there. My parents labeled me a disappointment and expelled me from our home at 18. Just last week, their sprawling enterprise desperately needed $60 million to survive, and I was their sole hope. "Just sign here," my father implored. I chuckled as the downpour assaulted me, its droplets striking my shoulders like countless small blows while I stood in the driveway of our Atlanta estate. My father's declaration still echoed in my mind, sharp and conclusive. "You are a failure, Marcus, a stain on this family." He loomed over me in the entrance hall, his face crimson with fury, veins protruding like the steel girders of Reed Construction, the $60 million empire he had erected. My mother didn't even raise her voice. She simply stood by the grand staircase, her gaze as frigid as granite, and stated, "If you refuse to build with us, you are no child of mine." I was 18, my high school diploma still pristine in my backpack, but they had discovered my Georgia Tech acceptance letter. Aerospace engineering. My aspiration was to design spacecraft, not to inherit their realm of concrete and contracts. My father seized the letter, tore it in two, and cast the pieces at my feet. "Get out," he snarled, thrusting a duffel bag, filled with clothes I hadn't even packed, into my arms. My mother turned away, her heels clicking as she secured the front door behind her. The sound resonated more loudly than the thunder. Rain drenched my hoodie, trickling into my eyes, but the true chill penetrated deeper, years of their expectations collapsing, leaving me hollow. I had been their favored child, the boy they showcased at board meetings, groomed to assume control, yet I loved physics, the rhythm of equations, the schematics of shuttles soaring through the cosmos, not construction bids or safety helmets. That evening, the tempest consumed me entirely. I didn't weep, though my chest ached as if it might rupture. I zipped my jacket, slung the bag over my shoulder, and passed through the wrought iron gates I had once dashed through as a boy. The driveway vanished into darkness, and for the first time, I felt both shattered and liberated, like a rocket breaking free from orbit, regardless of the pain of leaving the ground behind. I found refuge on Jamal's sofa that initial night, the springs poking my back through a worn cushion. His apartment was a cramped space on Atlanta's south side, with peeling paint and roaches scurrying across the counter, but it was a lifeline. Jamal, a slender man with oil-stained hands from repairing vehicles, had encountered me at a science fair 2 years prior. "Stay as long as you need, man," he offered, tossing me a blanket that carried a faint scent of motor oil. I possessed nothing, no funds, no family, just a dilapidated laptop I had rescued from my old room and an intense resolve to prove them wrong. My parents believed I would crumble without their money, but I would demonstrate that I didn't require their dominion to stand tall. Days blended into a relentless routine. I secured employment at a hardware store near Georgia Tech, scanning nails and paint cans for contractors who barked orders as if I were invisible. The manager, a man with a perpetual frown, deducted from my wages if I was a minute late, claiming it instilled discipline. At night, I'd borrowed Jamal's noisy old Toyota and delivered food, navigating Atlanta's traffic, headlights reflecting off wet streets. Tips were meager, but every crumpled dollar went into a jar marked tuition. My scholarship covered half of Georgia Tech's expenses. The remainder was my responsibility. I would stumble back to the apartment at midnight, my body aching, but I would open that laptop regardless, its screens glow my sole illumination in that dim, stale room. Then, my father inflicted a deeper wound. Word spread, Victor Reed had informed every construction firm in the city that I had deserted the family, a betrayer of the Reed name. I applied for internships to bolster my resume, but doors slammed shut. "Sorry, kid, we don't get involved in Reed family drama," one man stated, not even glancing up from his desk. It struck hard, not merely the rejection, but the realization that he preferred to see me fail than succeed. I clenched my fists, jaw tight, and vowed I would achieve success without his influence. I enrolled at Tech anyway, carrying my bag across campus on that first day, a blend of pride and defiance surging through me. Aerospace engineering was more than just a degree. It was my rebellion, my anchor. Classes were demanding, calculus, physics, fluid dynamics, but I thrived on it. The hum of equations felt like home, more so than that mansion ever did. I would remain in the library until closing, scribbling notes, then head to Jamal's kitchen table to continue working. My laptop whirred as I taught myself coding, Python, MATLAB, assembling simulations of rocket trajectories. I would observe lines of code transform into arcs across a virtual sky, my heart racing as if I were up there with them. Sleep was a stranger. I would snatch 3, perhaps 4, hours, waking with my face pressed against the textbook, ink smudged on my cheek. Jamal would shake his head, grinning. "You're a machine, Marcus. They truly believe you're going to quit?" I smirked back. "Not a chance." The relentless effort yielded minor victories. I excelled in my first semester, professors acknowledging my work as if I belonged. But money was a constant constraint. The jar never filled quickly enough. Textbooks, lab fees, a punctured tire on Jamal's car that I had to replace. I would skip meals, subsisting on stale granola bars, telling myself hunger was temporary, failure was not. One night, while delivering in a downpour, a drunk driver clipped the Toyota's bumper. I swerved, my heart pounding, and pulled over, rain pelting the cracked windshield. No insurance, no funds to repair it, just me, soaked again, staring at a dented hood. I laughed, a bitter raw sound, because what else could I do? Life kept delivering blows, but I would strike back. Jamal mended the car with duct tape and a favor from his shop, and I kept going. The hardware store reduced my hours. Slow season, they claimed, so I took on extra shifts, hauling takeout, avoiding potholes and late-night drunkards. My hands blistered from gripping handlebars, my back screamed from hunching over that couch, but I didn't stop. Every line of code I wrote, every lecture I absorbed, was a brick in a wall they couldn't dismantle. My parents saw a quitter. I saw a fighter. They cast me out, thinking I would crawl back broken, but I was constructing something slow, messy, uniquely mine. Each night, as the city hummed beyond those thin walls, I would gaze at my screen, tracing orbits in the darkness, and feel the burden of their words lighten just a little. I wasn't finished yet. 6 months into my struggle, I hit a barrier, exhausted, penniless, and questioning if I would ever escape the predicament my parents had forced me into. Then, one sleepless night, hunched over my laptop in Jamal's kitchen, I completed Orbitra. It was a rudimentary application, barely more than a skeletal code structure to model satellite trajectories. The interface was unappealing, all gray boxes and jagged lines, but it functioned. I could input data and observe orbits tracing across the screen, as smooth as a planet's dance. On an impulse, I uploaded it to a Georgia Tech student forum, anticipating perhaps a dozen downloads. 3 days later, my inbox chimed, 2,000 users. My jaw dropped. Comments poured in. "This is brilliant, needs refinement but immense potential." My chest vibrated with a sensation I hadn't experienced in months, hope. Then came the email that halted my heart. "Marcus Reed, I'm Lena Carter, CTO at Horizon Dynamics. I tried Orbitra. It's unpolished but intelligent. We're a startup developing aerospace tools. Do you have time to chat?" I read it 5 times, convinced it was a hoax. Horizon was legitimate though, a small operation in a converted warehouse on Atlanta's west side, designing software for space companies. I replied, my hands trembling, and a week later, I entered their office. Exposed brick walls, a coffee machine humming, engineers typing away at desks cluttered with monitors. Lena, in her 30s, sharp-eyed, wearing a faded NASA hoodie, wasted no time. "Show me how it handles orbital decay," she instructed, sipping from a chipped mug. I opened my laptop, guided her through the calculations, dragged coefficients, velocity shifts. 10 minutes later, she nodded. "You're in. Junior developer part-time. Pay is modest, but you'll advance." I mumbled a thank you, too stunned to articulate more. The exhilaration was short-lived. My father retaliated again, this time with a lawsuit. A letter arrived at Jamal's place, Reed Construction versus Marcus Reed. He asserted I had misappropriated family resources to develop Orbitra, citing the laptop I had taken when they expelled me. It was mine. I had purchased it with birthday money at 16. But he had attorney's wealth, malice. I had none. The case was flimsy, but fighting it depleted my savings, every cent from delivery tips and hardware shifts gone to legal fees. I would sit in Jamal's living room, staring at the summons, fury simmering in my veins. He wasn't merely attempting to ruin me, he desired to humiliate me, to make me crawl back. I tore the envelope in half and swore I would bury him with my own achievements. Horizon became my anchor. Part-time transitioned to full-time in 3 months. Lena appreciated my drive. I would arrive early, debug code, fine-tune algorithms, fueled by inexpensive coffee and a compulsion to prove myself. The team was small, resilient, individuals who lived for liftoff simulations, not corporate polish. I fit right in. 6 months later, Lena appointed me lead on a propulsion diagnostics project. "You possess intuition," she stated, handing me a stack of specifications. "Don't mess it up." I didn't. We constructed a tool to detect fuel leaks in thrusters. My code reduced error rates by 15%. Clients noticed. Horizon's reputation grew, and so did mine. Nights extended long. I would collapse at the office, waking with keyboard imprints on my arm, then immerse myself back in work. My father's lawsuit loomed over me, a dark cloud, but I channeled it, every line of code a defiant gesture against his name. The case lingered, draining me, until a judge dismissed it. "No evidence," he ruled. I exhaled, feeling lighter, but the damage was done. Months of stress, a bank account at zero. Jamal clapped my shoulder. "You're still standing, man. That's the victory." He was right. I had lost money, not my resolve. At Horizon, I pushed harder. I studied rocket propulsion texts, devoured online courses, orbital mechanics, data structures, anything to sharpen my abilities. My desk became a battleground of sticky notes and energy drink cans. Lena began calling me Rocket. Half joking, half proud, the nickname stuck. When we demonstrated the diagnostics tool for a satellite firm, they signed a contract on the spot. My name was on it, Marcus Reed, lead developer. I gazed at the paper, a grin tugging at my lips. Failure. Disgrace. Not anymore. I was constructing something tangible, something they couldn't touch, and this was merely the beginning. 2 years at Horizon Dynamics had molded me into something more resilient. Late nights debugging, early mornings pitching, a glimpse of what I could accomplish when no one restricted my potential. But I wasn't content being someone else's asset. I desired my own conflict. So I resigned. Lena leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, when I delivered the news. "You have a good situation here, Rocket. Why depart?" Her voice was steady, but her eyes probed mine. I didn't waver. "Because I need to build my own vessel, not merely navigate yours." She observed me for a moment, then nodded, a faint smile touching her lips. "Don't crash and burn," she advised. That night, in a cramped rental I had managed to secure after the lawsuit decimated my finances, I founded Stellarcore. It was an AI tool designed to optimize spacecraft fuel efficiency, smarter burns, less waste, significant savings. I coded on a shaky folding table, subsisting on ramen and tap water, every dollar invested in cloud servers and a used monitor that flickered when it overheated. The beta took 9 months to emerge from my mind. I barely slept, my eyes red from screen glare, fingers stiff from ceaseless typing. I launched it quietly, presenting it to 40 aerospace firms, smaller players willing to take a chance on an unproven individual. 30 signed contracts, buzzing about how it reduced fuel costs without sacrificing power. Word ascended, and Paul Grayson, a seasoned investor with a background in aerospace, slid into my inbox. We met at a greasy diner off I-85, him in a faded blazer, me in a hoodie stiff from thrift store starch. $1.5 million, he declared, his fork hovering over runny eggs. What's your strategy? I didn't hesitate. Engineers, servers, raw computing power. No jets, no corner office. Just the courage to make it fly. He grinned, signed the check, and mumbled, "You're my kind of crazy kid." That capital was my catalyst. Stellar Core ascended, slowly at first, then with the roar of a rocket. A year in, we reached a $20 million valuation. 6 months later, $55 million. I kept operations lean, rented a loft with a faucet that dripped like a metronome, rotated the same 3 shirts, and channeled every profit back into the technology. The team began small, 5 of us crammed into a rented room with flickering fluorescent lights, cables snaking across the floor. I'd brought Jamal on as operations manager. He had stood by me through the roach-infested nights, and I trusted him to prevent chaos from engulfing us. "You're insane, Marcus," he remarked, laughing as he hauled in a printer still in its box. "But I'm fully committed." We weren't blood, but we were family, more so than the Reeds had ever been to me. Our office smelled of burnt coffee and solder, and I wouldn't have traded it for anything. The world took notice. Trade magazines featured headlines. "Stellar Core, the little engine that could," and clients like Orbital Labs hailed us as innovators. I would enter meetings half expecting someone to inquire about my father, but they didn't. They saw me. Marcus Reed, the person who transformed a soaked duffel bag into a launch pad. Late nights, I would sit at my desk, observing data stream in, fuel savings, flight logs, each number a component of something substantial. My parents had wagered I would fail. Instead, I was ascending higher each day. I didn't boast about it, not yet. I remained focused, refining algorithms, recruiting sharp minds, envisioning grander goals. A lunar lander project began to materialize in my thoughts, scribbled on a napkin beneath my coffee mug, unfinished but alive. Jamal caught me staring at it one night, leaning on the doorframe with a smirk. "You're not stopping, are you?" I grinned back. "Not until I'm on the moon." He shook his head, but his eyes conveyed belief. That faith, the team's, kept me grounded when doubt crept in. My father's voice still intruded occasionally, labeling me a failure, but it was a whisper now, lost in the hum of servers and the clatter of keyboards. I had risen from nothing, a child cast aside, to this, not because of them, but despite them. And the sky was no longer my limit, it was my starting line. 3 years into Stellar Core, I had constructed something formidable, a $55 million aerospace tech powerhouse, humming with contracts and ambition. I was in our new office, still modest, just a larger room with improved chairs, reviewing a lunar lander proposal when my phone vibrated. The screen illuminated Victor Reed, my father. I hadn't heard his voice since the lawsuit dissolved, and I had maintained that distance, allowing silence to bury the past. I let it ring twice, my thumb hovering, then answered. "Marcus," he rasped, his tone devoid of its former steel. "We need you." I leaned back, gazing at the ceiling, a laugh bubbling up, cold, sharp, and slow. "What's this we now, Dad?" He paused, then muttered, "The company's dying. Reed Construction. We're out of time." I remained silent, letting the quiet extend, savoring the weight of his desperation. I delved into their financial records that night, accessing public documents from my laptop. The figures depicted a catastrophe, 80% of their value gone in a year, revenue decimated by competitors who had embraced digital methods while they clung to paper blueprints and handshake agreements. No AI, no automation, just a $60 million relic crumbling under its own mass. They required $6 million to remain solvent, perhaps to limp through another quarter. My mother emailed next, her words softer but equally hollow. "Marcus, we're desperate. Please talk to us." I scrolled through it, that laugh escaping again, louder this time. Desperate? They had discarded me like refuse, and now they wanted my remnants. I leaned back, arms crossed, the irony tasting bitter yet sweet. Then I discovered the magazine article. Victor had taken one final swipe, a trade publication piece titled, "The Reed Legacy, Betrayed by Blood." He had portrayed me as ungrateful, a son who had scorned his family's diligent work, pursuing foolish aspirations. He had fed it to the industry months prior, hoping shame would draw me back. It backfired. Readers condemned him, not me, calling him out of touch in the comments. I smirked, scrolling through the repercussions.